I keep hearing this lovely, lovely sentence of, well, in my generation, we did it this way, did it that way. And it's always the thing of disliking the generation after the generation before. Like, it's just always a thing of millennials not liking this, boomers not liking the generation after them. It just seems to be a pattern that we just continually, repetitively pass on. And I don't see the point of continuing this analogy. Like,
hello, guys. Welcome back to the Daily Humans podcast. I'm Nina.
Ashley.
Nice
you heard
to
my
meet
name
you.
so many times. Yeah.
Yeah, you should know who we are at this point. I mean, you're here, right? So
I get so sick of saying my name sometimes.
Welcome
Not gonna lie.
I mean, we can stop. We can just be like, hey.
Probably a good idea. Hi.
Welcome to the Humans podcast.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
That's the entire episode.
Yeah. Like 5 seconds.
Oh. Why not? I mean, the patience has apparently gone downhill because of TikTok.
True.
So, a 5-second podcast just basically saying hi, goodbye sounds ideal.
Fits right in.
That's the whole thing.
Thank you so much for joining this week's episode, you guys. We'll see you next weekend. Bye.
Thank you. Watery eye. This is the best way to deal with a watery eye, by the way.
Yeah. I love that.
I cry when I laugh. So I've had to do this because my eyes get watery. Even when I smile. When I smile, they get watery. So any type of happiness brings tears to my eyes. How fair do you think that is? It's not.
Yeah. Well, as a fellow Cancerian, I cry when I'm happy, when I'm angry, when I'm sad. Yeah. I cry all the time. It's fine. I'm used to it at this point. Oh. Yeah, no.
It's the water sign, you know.
Yeah, it's the water. It's there it is. It's the water again. I mean, honestly, to anybody watching, listening, if you know a water company that would like to do a sponsorship, please go ahead and get in contact with us because we love water.
Water. She says it so well now. Water.
Yeah, water.
With gusto. Yeah.
I love it. I'm going to come to Australia and I'm going to assimilate, and you won't know the difference. If I come from America, from Germany, or Australia, I'll have the accent down. So just prepare for that.
You already have it down, basically, because you just, you could just take it from me. Just mimic what I say.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
You might as well.
Honestly.
For so long, I never thought
I still sound more British than I actually sound Australian, but I'll work on it.
The thing too that I notice is that when people try, actually, let me just say this, it's kind of difficult to do the Australian accent because there's different versions, may I just say. There's a very deep version, and then I guess there's like, I don't know, my version. I don't know how to explain it, like a mixed version. So I've heard people when they try the Aussie accent, they sound more New Zealand. Like they're more like a New Zealand accent than Australian accent.
Okay.
And hey, you got the New Zealand accent intact, but Aussie, I think we're kind of difficult in a lot of ways. I think you have to go deep. I think we're deep with our accent. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely I think it's very interesting. So I'm going to reference this book again. I'm so sorry, Ashley. I've brought this book up to her millions of times at this point. And I apologize.
Bring it up a million more. Go ahead.
I love this. There's like a book and it's called Green Knights and it's by Matthew McConaughey. And obviously I do believe he's from Texas, and he has like this country twang, right, to his voice. And it makes his voice really interesting. But I thought about it while listening to his book because he was in Australia and he talks about his time in Australia, living there for a year or so. And I was like, I feel like the accent is a little bit similar but different. Like you guys have like this like more rounded way of speaking, and it has like this drawl a little bit, like it's softer and it's like very comfort. I say this knowing Ashley is like Australian sounds so country. It's like so not attractive. But I do believe it sounds really great. I think it has character. It's kind of like a Scottish accent, you know, it's different obviously, but it has character. When you hear somebody with an Australian accent, you're like, yeah, I like that person immediately. Like I don't even know them, but like they're cool. So I don't know.
Hey, I'm not going to rebuke it. I'm not even.
Good, because you sound beautiful. And I love Australian accents. New Zealand accents now, they're really interesting to me because I feel like they're a little bit more softer. Like you can't hear it as upfront as you do hear an Australian accent a little bit, but maybe that depends on the person as well. I don't know. I have yet to go to your side of the world, so I will chime in on this more later.
Mhm.
But um, to me, because I have an untrained ear, I feel like Australian accents sound alike, unless you have like a dialect and things like that. I'm sure that would make it different, but I think
Mm.
I haven't heard like a deep version or like a light or normal version. I just think it
Yeah,
sounds the
who
same.
knows? I don't even know what version. And
Yeah,
it's not a big deal because we are a
yeah,
multicultural country and
true.
yeah, there's many I'm
Yes.
taking it as there's many versions. If you go
Yeah.
in deeper into regional, I'm gonna guess that
Mm,
you might hear maybe one version of the accent. And
mhm.
I'm making an assumption, but I have been to towns before. We've
Yeah.
traveled around Victoria and you do sort of hear one particular version of the accent.
Mm,
And it's
okay.
to me it's just a deep Australian accent.
Mhm.
Um, so other than that, I have nothing else to add to it.
I did.
My
I don't know.
conclusion of what I hear.
I don't know if this is a good thing to mention in
Oh,
according to Australia, because it
go
is
ahead.
connected to like a real story that happened. I'm not too sure who the serial killer was, but yeah, we're gonna just dive right in.
She's going into that.
I
Serial
Today's episode is sponsored by
murder
Nurse.
mystery.
Yay! No,
So
but
yes, the serial killer.
Uh, there's a movie called Wolf's Creek, right? 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Don't watch it unless you have a strong stomach. But the obviously it's set in Australia. It's about various different serial killers that you've had there in the 70s, 80s, I believe. And the guy who's playing the character, he has a very, very strong Australian accent, and it is not similar to yours. So I do get what you're saying. There are more like hardcore Australian accents, and then there are the more
Yeah.
soft and the nice and the
Yeah.
gentle. Yeah.
Yeah. Priority. And just to say too, people are really too hard on people that learn different languages because learning English, I feel like, would be really difficult.
Yeah.
There's a variety of the English language. Like like we're talking about Aussies have different versions of the way that they speak and even words as well. We shorten things, you know. We like to say Tuesday and Wednesday. We just like to shorten things. And then you go to the UK and they have their differences depending on where you are. You go to the US and they have their differences depending on where you are. So I have a lot of respect for those that are learning English. I feel like it would be difficult
Yeah.
and my support is towards you. And if I'm learning Japanese, if I'm learning Korean, I'm not Korean. I'm not Japanese, you know. I'm not what's another one I can give?
Finnish.
What? Spanish. I'm not
Finish.
what? Finnish.
Finland, Ashley.
Finland. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
I live in Australia. I have an Australian accent. So obviously trying to get the pronunciation and also have it sounding as close to the language as possible, it's going to be difficult. And that's just for anyone as well. And oh my God, it actually kind of annoys me the way people go about people that are learning different languages. It's just so, it's not accepting of the reality. You know, they say,
Yeah.
well, you don't sound like You don't sound Italian. You don't sound French. Well, I've got to get past my Australian accent. I've got to actually get the pronunciation right, and I've got to focus on the vocabulary, and that takes time, people. And even so, you might not even get to that point
Yeah.
because you just,
Yeah.
good on you for learning any language that you're learning and continually do so. And don't apologize to anyone if the pronunciation is a certain way. It cannot be at the 100% percentile. There are people that I've heard that say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. My pronunciation's really bad." And then they speak the language and I'm looking at them like, "Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure?" Because you literally, it just sounds so fluent. You just flow. You flow.
Yeah.
Give yourselves more credit. It's not easy learning another language. It really isn't. We know. We did a whole, no, actually, part of season 1 was us saying hello and announcing our podcast, saying our names in different languages.
Yeah.
And yeah, that came with its trials as well.
Yes.
But we still did it. So good on us and good on anyone else doing it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I definitely think people are way too hard on people with pronunciation of words, even in their
Yes.
own languages, there are different dialects and stuff. So it's unfortunate. I've been bullied before due to my pronunciation when I spoke a different language. It's like, oh, you sound like you're from somewhere else. It's because I
Because
am
I
from
am.
somewhere else.
Because I am. Hello.
Oh, but yeah.
I don't understand a human being sometimes. That's a really
Yeah.
silly thing. Do you
Yeah.
ever go at someone for? My
Yes.
anger just came from seeing it on TikTok. I saw a video where she was speaking a language, and people in the comments were like, "You're doing a really bad job because you sound nothing like it." And it's like, she's American. She has American accent, and she's trying something.
New.
Exactly. It's new, and there's a lot to it. Just like someone who's learning English. Oh gosh, I hate that whole debacle on, well, if you're in the country, learn the language, but then they learn the language and then it's like, I can't understand you.
Mm.
Mate,
Oh man.
please.
Oh,
It's
I
not
hate
easy.
that.
Nothing about that is easy. It should
Yeah.
be fun to learn another language. 100% it
Yeah.
should be fun. Definitely. You're learning about the culture, the beauty. There's so much to learn.
Mhm.
So much to learn. But human
Yeah.
beings just take it and they turn it into a competition. They turn it
Right.
into something that is meant to be, sorry, say it again. They turn it into some kind of debacle or debate or this little game or a bullying tactic. Like they turn it into something negative,
Yeah.
basically. And yeah, no, no,
It's
no, no.
unfortunate. It's unfortunate because it also doesn't really allow for the reality again for disabilities, like what if people have learning disabilities and they move to a different country and they struggle with learning a language and you're going to, especially when people talk louder, when people start talking louder, thinking that they're going to be understood better by the other
Yeah,
individual. No, no,
yeah.
stop it right now. I can't even think about it. It's making me so angry. But I do believe that a lot of that it's just people being out of touch because they themselves don't do enough when it comes
100%.
to trying new things in their lives.
Mhm.
Like people are so afraid of change. And I've met people that are like, I've never been outside of this or outside of there, and I don't want to because I like it here. And if that's where you're from, if that's where you're at, then that's completely fine if you don't want to leave. But like,
Yep.
don't then go at people if you have been in this situation. Don't then let other people bully a person that is trying something new or is trying a new language or did move somewhere new, move to where you're living. Don't do it yourself, and hold those people accountable that do act like butt heads, for lack of a better word, because it's not okay. It takes a lot of courage to speak to people. A lot of people have anxiety. A lot of people have learning disabilities, like, and yet they're still trying, they're still going. And
Exactly.
just because you may not reflect the same sentiment, or whatever may be going on, at least meet it with a little bit more compassion. But it's actually something that Ashley and I wanted to talk about and did talk about a lot with each other over the last few days, where it's just like we've seen and noticed the uptick in how many people are projecting. I think we've mentioned this in previous comments, in previous episodes, excuse me, prior, where it's like people shared their dreams and the things that they wanted to do on social media. And then they were like, well, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't live in a pink house. That's childish. And judging people for their hobbies and things like that. And it's just, we've seen an uptick with that. And I don't know if that is because of social media, because we are, seeing more things from various people all around the world. But it's just, we kind of wanted to talk about it. We wanted to share our stories with it, and the just hypocrisy that has been kind of going around as of late. It's very peculiar, I
For a long
think.
time. In every
Yeah,
area.
yeah.
Feels like
Well,
everywhere.
yeah, yeah.
There's too much of
That's
it.
true.
Calm it
Yes.
down. Stop it now.
I agree. Yeah, there's been way too much projecting online. And I think with me, if I may, Ash, go first. I was sharing my story.
No, you cannot rock, paper, scissors.
Let's go. Let's go right now.
Take it on.
Okay.
Wait a second, I'm going to move this other way. Okay.
Okay.
I'm ready. Ready.
Yeah.
Rock,
Rock,
paper.
paper,
What are we doing? Rock.
scissors.
Where are we going?
Why were you late? It's rock, paper, scissors, and then we go.
Internet. Oh, I hurt internet. Okay, ready. Okay. Rock,
Paper,
scissors.
scissors. Oh, we gotta go again.
See, this is bad because then I'll do this, or I'll do this, and then you'll do this, or you'll do this. Okay.
Okay, I'll give you a head start by like 5
Okay.
seconds.
Ready?
Yeah.
Rock,
Paper,
scissors.
scissors. Oh, we're literally connected. Another round. Let's go.
Why do I feel like you're like throwing in the towel without making it look like you're throwing in the towel?
No, I'm not. I'm genuinely picking the things I wanted to pick. Okay.
Turn off your rising sun. Turn off your Cancer sun and get in your fire sign. Ready?
Let's go. Rock,
paper,
scissors.
No.
If you're just listening to this right now and you're not on our YouTube, just so we've drawn literally 3 times in a row now. We had both papers, both scissors. It's now both wrong. Let's just stop.
My eyes.
We have to pick a different game next time.
Speak. I have another game we can play.
Okay.
Nina, you just speak. I can't think of it. Give me 5 to 10 business days.
All right, I'll just go ahead. No, it's just I have seen an uptick when it comes to just the projections and what's going on. And as you guys have probably already mostly understood, if you've been with us for a little bit, I love to understand why people do the things they do and think the way they think. And it's very interesting to me. The psychology of people is super interesting. But something that I've noticed as of late with everything that's going on, politically speaking and worldwide with the events that are happening, it's just I had to really sit back over the last few weeks and just be like, why are people like this? Because I don't understand. Why is there so much what seems to be hatred and projectiveness and just violence going on? Because I don't understand. I don't know personally if I've ever seen such uptick in such, maybe it's just the media, I don't know, but I feel like it's gotten a lot heavier. It's gotten a lot more forceful and strong in recent times. And so as I was sitting back and I was kind of thinking about my life and my personal journey that's currently unfolding, and what's going on in the world, I, over the last couple of weeks, have been trying to navigate my life and the direction in which I want to go. And what I realized is A lot of the time when I want to do something, when I have a goal, when I have a dream, I don't end up going towards it. I go towards the fear. And that has put me in this current position where I'm sitting at a crossroads where I'm like, why am I not living the life that I wanted to live? Why am I not experiencing the things that I want to experience? And I had to really kind of like sit there and not internalize it, but sit there and take a deep dive within myself and be like, oh, it's because I always go to the direction of fear. I don't go towards the direction of courage and actually doing the thing that I want to do. And that led me down a whole rabbit hole in and of itself. But it led me to this moment of clarity yesterday. Yesterday morning, I meditated and then it came to me. So I feel like it was like a little bit of a reward from the universe. Like, here's your little enlightenment treat for meditating today. And that is, I think a lot of people right now are in the midst of the illusion of life falling around them. And that is, Ashley and I have talked about this multiple times, really hard to go through when everything you've worked for, everything you've strived for just kind of seemingly falls apart. Where are you in that? Especially when we over identify our worth and ourself and who we are as people with the outside world, with the material, with the job, with the position that you're in. You know, I'm a CEO. I'm like a multi-billionaire, you know, those type of titles that the last generation has really kind of strived towards. We've lived in a culture, and we still very much do, of like, you need to work hard to get success. And I feel like now we're kind of like in that place of, that's not necessarily true because the game is rigged in so many different ways, right? And
Mhm.
being in the midst of that, being in the midst of everything kind of faltering around you, especially when you've lived your life, let's say 50, 60 years with that mentality, that now crumbling is dramatic. And I think a lot of the anger that's going around online is rooted in fear, truly. And then also not knowing what's next. And oh my goodness, I can definitely relate to that because when I look into the future, I don't know what's next. And I feel like a lot of people have that fear, and thus they start to really get angry. And I don't say they in a discouraging or disparaging way. I say it in a really compassionate way of anybody who identifies with this, anybody who's having a hard time right now, to really just use that moment. And I know it is hard. And Ashley and I, we've talked about this where it's like shadow working is extremely difficult, especially when it's with the darkest versions of yourself, the most fear ridden versions of ourselves. However, it is necessary because if we don't do that, we end up turning into the very people we say we don't want to turn into and become, I hate to say it, kind of like a hypocrite. And
Mm.
that's the thing that I realized at the end of it. It was like a lesson. And I don't, I hear myself say this, right? And I don't want this to come off as like, oh my God, I'm so perfect. And I see these people around me and I learn from their lessons because I'm so wonderful. And I don't want to live through that. I say this because I have lived through it and I'm currently living through it. And what I want to say in conclusion is to anybody listening right now, watching, is if you don't go towards your dreams and the life that you really truly feel aligned with, have always been pulled towards with your intuition, you can end up in a position that a lot of people are finding themselves in right now, where the illusion of what has been told to you about what you want in life is falling apart because the system is unhealthy. And it makes you vindictive, it makes you angry, it makes you resentful. Don't turn into that. If you find yourself in that position or heading into that position, really take a moment to kind of pull yourself back and think, okay, what is it that I need to work on myself? And I know not everything in this world is about you personally, but it affects us personally. And so I really think writing it down in specific would be really good for a lot of people. Um, there's like a whole mental thing that comes with that, with neurology. If you write things down, it's better for your brain rather than talking about it. But if you would rather talk about it with a friend, then that's obviously still an option. But if you are not careful, and if you are choosing a life that is not for you, if you are choosing a life that has been set up for you to pursue because of society or what your family wants from you, it can later down the road, when the illusion of it all shatters, right? When you realize that it's not enough and that you're not happy or that it's not as fulfilling as you thought it would be, it can turn you into a very vindictive and angry person. You can project that onto people. And so today, Ash and I wanted to talk about that because it is something that is happening on a societal level. It's not just in our own personal lives. We see it every day. You know, we had that uptake with Karen's a few years ago when all those videos went viral. And it's like that comes from somewhere. And it's something that we're experiencing right now with everything going on politically in the States and then worldwide as well, because there's a lot of elections going on, but also just based on the human psyche and where we're going as a society, we need to move out of these places and states that are no longer serving us. And that takes a lot of accountability, a lot of responsibility, and a lot of internal work. So, yeah.
Very much aside from what Nina was saying, but in a way is a part of the conversation. I said this to Nina on a voice message the other day that people don't like change. I'm not going to say everyone, but I rarely hear from people the absolute love, the cherished desire to go through change. It's always, oh gosh, this just happened the other day. I can't stand when change happens. Or it's like, I just can't stand the way the world is changing, the way things are progressing. The conversations revolved around the disdain for that movement and the shifts that are happening. And I've had a lot of deep thoughts about all of this because it's not invalidating anyone as well. If you want to create that perception, that's yours. Go right ahead, do you. But it's not the perception that we're putting out there. It's not a fault. But if you think about this, right? If human evolution didn't change, we'd probably still be where we started from when we came onto this planet, however we came on, whether we flew on a meteor, we came out of the ground and reached our hands up like zombies. I don't know. We were gorillas and we became humans. I don't know.
Yeah.
We came from a star in the sky. You know, I don't know. Yes. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know. But if we didn't go through the shifts and the changes, we'd still be at that point. If you really think about it, humanity has to evolve and change through the decades. And put it this way, we all wanted that to change. We needed it to change. Because again, I spoke about it in the last episode. Can you imagine if things stayed the way they were back in like the 16th century, 18th century? Can you imagine, you know, the things they did, like slavery, and people didn't bathe, you know, because it wasn't also accessible in many ways. But also in one part of it, it wasn't seen as a necessity. There's just so many things that we had to learn from. Like you could just get your finger chopped off. You know, technically, like these days, you just take antibiotics, but back then they just chop your whole finger off and say, "That's it, just get rid of the whole thing. Everything's fudged." I was about to swear. Everything's fudged, just chop it off.
Yeah.
If you really dive deep, we have to change. That's what I'm saying. We have to change. We have to move. We will be forever shifting, forever moving, forever learning. This is a human experience. We are forever learning, even when people try to act like it's not. Can someone name a human being that knows everything or that uses 100% of their brain? Please tell me who. Don't say Einstein either. That's not true. Tell me who. Damn it. I want to know. Keep religion out of it. I want to know generally someone on this planet that uses 100% of their brain. My whole point in saying that is because I keep hearing this lovely, lovely sentence of, well, in my generation, we did it this way and did it that way. And it's always the thing of disliking the generation after the generation before. It's just always a thing of millennials not liking this, boomers not liking the generation after them. It just seems to be a pattern that we just continually, repetitively pass on. And I don't see the point of continuing this analogy. Like, what are we hoping to achieve through this? We could just work together, you know? And people can say, well, in a perfect world, everyone is working together. Well, if Earth decided to die tomorrow, I'm pretty sure we all go with it, don't we? Like, it's we all go with it.
Yeah.
We live on this planet together, and even though you're in your own house and you're in your own space, you still have neighbors. When you go down the street, it's not just you down the street, you've got everyone else down the street. Like down the shops, you got everyone else down the shops too. So if you were to literally stand in the middle of the supermarket and scream, everyone else is going to look at you, because we're all a part of it. It's an ecosystem, energy. It's all connected. It might be my view, but that's the way I think about it. Even just another example, if you really want me to go there, to give more examples, I will. Of course I will. When a traffic jam happens, everyone's affected. Everyone in the traffic is affected.
Yeah.
It ain't just you. It ain't you just Bob the Builder. It's everyone in that line. So that's my point, right? That we're coming back to this. That's my point, is that we all share this planet together and the beautiful things that it provides for us. The entire conversation, the entire so-called debacle, created illusion debacle, just a lot of description there, a lot of, words, of this generation is not as good as that generation, and this generation does this, and this generation does that, and this generation's lazy. I don't see the point of any of it. I really don't. I really don't see the point. And you can say there's a point, but you'll just come up with all the negatives to describe you trying to validate your discomfort with things that are changing, essentially. You just don't like the change. That's really what it is. You don't like the shift. You don't like the change. You're allowed to have your dislikes of missing things. You're allowed to miss the way things were. You're allowed to feel that way. I don't blame you. If Christmas decided to depart in the next 20 years, oh yeah, well, I'll feel that one. I'd feel that. I might sit there and have a few tears because I love Christmas, but I'm not going to turn to the generation and say, it's your fault. You're the reason. You guys suck. I hate your generation. There's just no point of that, because I know that things change.
Yeah.
The world is constantly shifting, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And you know what? It needs to happen. Because like I said, imagine if it didn't. Again, going back to that, imagine if it didn't change. Imagine. I know it's uncomfortable. I know it's scary. It's the unfamiliarity. If I'm even saying that word right, I don't know at this point. I can't even say Pacific. I keep saying like Pacific Ocean. I can't say the S. I can't put the S in front of the P. I can't put the S before the P. See? I've never been able to say that word. I understand the survival mode or the protective mode that gets triggered when you're just so uncertain of why this is happening and what is happening, and you think that everything's gone to shit or that it's going to go to shit.
Yeah.
Because the perception might be just that, right? But again, so many things have needed to depart from human existence for a reason. So many things have had to change for a reason, like, as some examples, the current situations with the workplace. And I spoke about it in the last episode. There used to be this input that authority deserved your utmost respect no matter the cost. There used to be that implemented into society, right? Now, the difference is, so if that person is committing monstrosities towards other human beings, we're just going to sit back and allow that to happen because they're high authority, because they're older. That whole analogy needed to break down, because it's such an illusion to ever think that you have every right to walk on this planet and step on every other human being as you go, to degrade and dehumanize other human beings as you go. It's really delusional to ever think that you should have that kind of power, that anyone should have that kind of power. Treating other human beings in a certain way and expecting them to fold to that. Like I said in the last episode, I see so many human beings do this stuff, and then they want to be seen, heard, and validated. They want to be loved. Do people not see the hypocrisy in that? How manipulative that is? Slapping someone in the face and saying, "Love me, love me," after you just slapped them. I'm just trying to find the audacity somewhere.
Yeah.
I can't find it. It's nowhere. This is just one example. There's so, you know what? If you've been listening to this podcast for a long time, you know that I say things multiple times because it's true. There is so many layers to this. There is.
Yeah.
So many things have changed and so many people don't like it. They don't understand it. Like again, the authority thing. And you have managers, you have CEOs that are saying, no one wants to work and no one wants to do the hours and put in the hard work. That's because we know we're going to die one day and we're going to look back and think, well, you're just going to replace me anyway, mate. So what am I going to give my entire life to you for? What am I going to do at the cost? Again, another thing. Not again, haven't even said it. Another thing. It had to be broken down in thinking that the cost of you is worth it. It's not worth it. I think about the amount of times I've been to the doctors that I've had so many appointments trying to fix my body. And I think to myself, Jays, all that program thinking that I had to push myself through the pain or push myself through the agony or just do it because then people are going to look at you and think that you're lazy and incompetent if you don't. But then it's like, I'm in so much pain, mate. You're not feeling it. I'm feeling it. Why? What is this illusion that we have in this society, thinking that my pain is insignificant as long as my workload and my productiveness is up at A grade? That's more valued, but my humanness doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if I'm in pain. Doesn't matter if I'm hurting. Doesn't matter if I'm going through it. What matters is my productive level. Doesn't that sound like it goes completely against human? I don't care how many times I'm going to say it. It is inhuman. It's inhuman to me to literally look at a human being and say your productive level matters more than your pain. So you better keep doing what I think you should be doing. Otherwise, your worth and your value is basically worthless. Yeah. You don't mean anything if you're not giving to society, giving you all that is you to society. We want your body. We want your health. We want your mental health. We want it all. And then if your mental health goes downhill, we'll just chuck you into a facility, mate. Just chuck you on some drugs and advocate for you in the same way and nothing changes. And then, say, I'm so sorry. So sorry for your mental health. I'm so sorry about your health conditions. You've done such a good job at being so productive. Please keep doing that because otherwise you shouldn't use it as an excuse to stop doing that. There's so much I could say. It really just, again, comes back to the fact that I just think this is all inhumane. I just think this goes against human, all of it. And that's why it's being deconstructed. That's why you're seeing this happening because people are realizing it too, that what am I killing myself over this for? Why is this being at the cost of my mental health when no one else is going to have to deal with this? I'm the only one that's going to have to deal with it. When you walk through a mental health facility, when you walk into those doors, it's only you. And when you sit there with yourself, because you'll only ever be sitting with yourself, you sit there and realize that nothing is worth this. Nothing. I've said this before, nothing will be at the cost of me. So, as I said before, it's difficult to find comfort in change when you're unfamiliar with that, when you don't like it, or when you miss the way things were before because you're so used to that. You've grown up with it. There's no invalidation with any of that. We all know what this is like. Nina and I go back sometimes and we get nostalgic over some things, Hey, bring back Toasted TV here. And for the Aussies that know, it's a great program. People always talk about bringing back the old Wiggles. Well, guess what? They've all gotten older. Things had to change. Things had to progress.
Yeah.
It's difficult, but it had to happen. But it's validating that. It's validating, we miss them too. I miss Greg, of course. I miss all of them and the way that it used to be. Singing Hot Potato in front of the screen. Yeah, 100%. But on the other spectrum, It had to move forward, and it forever will, as long as the Wiggles exist. New people are going to come on board, right?
Yeah.
New people will. So humanity will be forever changing.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, it has to, because enough is enough with the way of at the cost of a human being. Truly.
Yeah. I completely agree. And I think that is why it's so vital to really pour effort and energy into your mental health. Like Ashley said, you will only have to sit with yourself in whichever position you end up being in by pedestaling status, money, job, what other people think, etc. It will be at the cost of you. I actually had that said to me. By a friend of mine years ago when I literally worked my body to the ground and I was ignoring all the flags. I think I've shared this story in a prior episode, so I won't go into it,
Mm,
but I was ignoring all the physical pain I was in. There would be days when I couldn't even walk because my feet had hurt so bad from working on my feet for 14 hours a day, every day. And I had a friend just kind of pull me aside and be like, hey, why are you doing this? What are you doing this for? And I'm like, well, I don't, this person is sick and I don't want them to think I'm a bad person. I want to be a good employee. It's like, wait a minute. If you drop dead, they will just hire somebody else.
mm,
And that shifted my entire life because, like Ashley said so very finely, it is at the cost of you. And I think when you're in the midst of that illusion shattering, right? It took me a little bit, but it took me a little bit to realize. Let me elaborate a little bit further. But um, when you have your entire life, Ashley has said this prior as well, where it's like when you live your life and then somebody comes along, it's like, well, everything you know is wrong. That is incredibly traumatizing. Oh my goodness, that is so shocking to the system. And so I do have compassion for people who, are regardless of what generation they're in. But let's say they are 60 years old and they've lived a certain way their entire life, and now all of a sudden it's falling apart. It's not able to be maintained. And that is something that I, in my 20s, can relate to my own way because the things that worked for me and at 19, 20 don't work for me at 28. And I think that's why we have to continue to evolve and change and really pour into your mental health, what's good for you. And
mhm,
obviously, it is a luxury in a lot of different countries around the world. We do want to acknowledge that it's not easily accessible to just anybody, which is also a big issue. But I do believe in my heart of hearts, this is the reason why we see so much uptake on projection online, and if you don't do this, this is going to happen to you, or I'm going to do this to you because you don't respect me enough. It's like this threatening, it's this violence because people in the position where their whole life is being upturned, they seek to somebody who can be a leader, they seek to somebody who can guide them through it. And a lot of the time, oh my goodness. I don't know if we've even talked about this before. There are so many people in positions of self help, mental health, even online with social media gurus and stuff that take that vulnerability, even in religion as well, that take that vulnerability in a person and use it for their gain, use it for their good. We see it in politics, we see it in so many different facets of life. And thus, you know, we are able to be led as a people into something that is completely not really what we're actually after, which is why I said this in the last episode. I mean it. And that's why I'm drilling this into all of you who are listening. Please, please, please sit down and figure out what it is you actually want in life, not the fancy car and the Louis Vuitton and this and that.
Louis Vuitton.
Actually sit down. Like Louis Vuitton, and actually sit down and go to the root of it. Why do you want that thing? And not everything deserves that. If you want to get that pretty bag, go get that pretty bag. You know what I mean? But like, if your whole entire life is spent on the appearances of things, your identity is spent on what you own. and what you have and what your partner looks like, all these materialistic, on the surface level things, once that begins to crack, once that begins to change, and it will, you will be left with nothing because you will realize, oh, wait a minute. I spent so and so many years of my life chasing after things that don't really add anything to me as a human, as a person, as somebody who's experiencing life and wants to. I will say this, there might not be many people in this world who want to continue growing and learning. There might just be people who are like, listen, I have a house. I want to live here. Just want to be doing this, and I don't want anybody to disturb my peace. That's fine. If that's your life, if that's what you want, so do it, so be it. But at the same time, we can't believe it. I just, I'm thinking about this, right? Because like you cannot just be in your house and shut yourself in and avoid the world because the world is still around you. Like Ashley said, you have neighbors. It's not just you. We live in an ecosystem. We're all related to each other. And I feel like so much of this world right now is trying to push us in these more unnatural states of being and living. And it's ridiculous. Like Ashley said, we can't. Why at the cost of productivity? Why is everything leveled at that? Why is that where your worth is? And so I think it's
Hmm.
fantastic that a lot of people are now standing up against that and want to enact change and are changing their relationship to work, their relationship to objects and buying things and shopping and relationships and just recentering themselves. I think that that is wonderful. I think that's fantastic. I think more of that needs to happen. However, I do just want to say that a lot of the behaviors that we're seeing that is being kind of like that is on the come up is learned. It's not something that we're born with. It is something that we have been programmed with. And so I do have a lot of compassion still for people, even though at times I may not understand it, why people behave a certain way, why people are so violent, why they go to violence in the first place, like as the first option. If you don't do this, I will do that and I will hurt you. I will do this. And it's ridiculous. But it is a learned behavior. And I do have the compassion for people. And I just hope that I don't know what the solution to that can be. I'm one individual, but I just think if we're looking towards one individual to lead us out of that, and that is anybody but ourselves, we're heading in the wrong direction. We have to know what we want at the core level of our existence. What is it that you want? What is it that you're striving towards? What are your dreams? And then go towards that. Because if you choose everything but yourself, you cannot expect to live a life that is good for you, that welcomes you in, because you're not living your own life, you're living somebody else's. In fact, maybe you're not even living somebody else's, you're living the illusion of what certain people, certain professions, certain environments have taught you to want. And it's ridiculous. We're doing it at the cost of humanity, at the cost of the ecosystem in which we live, the planet in which we live on. And you can be from any religion, any belief, any country, any nationality, any whatever. You can have so many diversities within that spectrum of existence. But if we continue down the path in which we have been, and if we continue down the path of believing that the past is better than what is coming, then we can never get out of this mess that we're in, and it will continue to get worse. Like I said in the last episode, we will go from fighting about money to fighting about resources. And at the end of the day, all we're doing is just maintaining this busybodiness and everything else but ourselves. We have to turn inwards, and we can't project onto the family members that we have, onto younger generation, onto like that worker at that shop that you're visiting, simply because you're not happy with your own life. You have to take accountability and responsibility. And that's just the way it is. This is your life. You get to create it. You make that decision, no matter which way that you go. And so it is vital that especially right now, if you feel like there's a turning point coming or that it's already here, that you're witnessing and experiencing it, lean into the difficulty of realizing what it is that's inside of you. If you feel misaligned, lean into that. Figure out why it is that you're not aligned. Write it down, journal it, seek professional help, whatever it is, seek mentorship. But don't just see that as normal and then take your anger, take that resentment and project it onto the world because that's not fair to anybody.
Mm. In retrospect, this falls in line with the episode of accountability and responsibility when it comes to, looking at how you are reflecting to society. And I mean, again, coming back to what I said before, I think about, and I have thought about this many times, being alive for 60 years, 50 years, 70 years, I validate that the change and the shifts that you're aware of and that you've noticed and that you've had to come to terms with, I don't doubt the difficulties of that. I really don't, because I don't know, obviously. But eventually I will have an understanding of that when that time progresses. You kind of already do, it's not segregated to one age or to one age bracket.
Right.
You do, because being 28 years on this planet, a lot has changed since the 90s, the early 2000s. Holy moly, things have changed.
Yeah.
And a lot of things I'm glad. There are actually a lot of things that I'm glad have changed personally. But it doesn't discriminate to age. But at the same time, as years progress and things become more apparent, there might be things, like I said before, that I notice that are gone and that I just actually there is already. Let me just say this: Video Easy and Blockbuster. If you know, like hiring
Oh
movies.
my
That
gosh,
really got me.
yes.
That got me. And yes, it's not like a worldwide, thing, but still, it was such a significant relevance to, early 2000s. I miss it so badly. Saturday nights going into Video Easy or
Yeah.
Blockbuster and hiring like 5 movies for a certain price. Like,
Yes. Ugh.
there are just some things like I said before that you have to adapt to, and it's difficult because depending on your psychology and where you're at will depend on how you reflect that, will depend on how you find that space and how you cope in that space. There are a lot of things that fall under this bracket. But it is, and like Nina's saying, it's the point of accountability in realizing how you're projecting the uncomfortability of change, how you're projecting where society is. And even the fact is, if you're willing to understand why society is going down this pathway, I'm not validating every single thing that's a part of current day and age. I'm not. There are definitely things I disagree with. But at the same time, it's what people are reflecting, because this, like I said before, this back and forth, this consistent back and forth argument, right? It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant, and it just degrades the actual, events that are going on, the actual current circumstances that we find ourselves in. I'm finding that more people these days of any age are trying to actually navigate through so many years of programming.
Yeah.
And are finding that also difficult too, but are actually jumping online and trying it out.
Yeah.
Speaking on it a lot more. And that's sort of the thing, is you might be uncomfortable and you might be afraid and you might think this is impossible for me to feel any sort of contentment in this consistent changing world. But at the same time, if I've been living my life consistently working, and I've been living my life consistently doing things for everyone else, and now people are telling me that you don't actually have to do that. And I mean, why does it need to be at the cost of you? And the wheels are turning in your head, but you're still finding, but I'm lazy if I don't do it this way. I do not give what society needs from me. I'm not being productive. Where's my worth and value if I am not doing things out there? When I said there's so many layers to it, I meant it. My brain today is finding it difficult to find those layers, to assess a lot of those layers. So there are things that are going to come up later on that I'm going to wish I said in this episode, because I've thought about this for so long. I've taken
Yeah.
a deep dive into trying to understand people's perception on change and how they cope with it and their psychology around it. Because, like Nina said, she likes to go deep. I like to go deep, right? So, again, I just think about the programming. I think of the installments. I think of, for the last few decades, what has been taught to humans. How have people been unfolding their lives? Again, we go back to the whole priority of marriage and children that falls into this spectrum. Like, it all plays a part into
Yeah.
how people think life should be. But again, bringing it back, it comes back to, you've been taught that this is the way life should be, and then you may potentially enforce that on other people. So if you've been taught that life and value and your existence is based on what you do for society, you're going to potentially project that onto other people in one way or another. There are many ways people do it. Whether
Right.
you tell someone, hey, you don't get up early in the morning, you need to be getting up early in the morning. Getting up late is just, it's so lazy. It's so incompetent. It's so pathetic. Like, why do you need to sleep your day away? And then you really, when you go deep, it's like your perception is yours and yours only. Your views on that is yours and yours only. If you're choosing to get up early, go right ahead, Roger. No one's going to stop you. But if someone else isn't a morning person, hey, guess what? That's a reality. It's really just pulling this all apart and realizing that the programming is just that. There's no leeway for anything else in programming. It's not open to anything else. It's just this box. Like, imagine that. And all you're seeing is what it wants you to see. That's it. Deconstructing that is realizing that this human experience is, there's no image. Like we've said, I think I've said it a million times at this point. It feels like there's no image to this human experience.
Yeah.
Someone gets up early, they don't. You know, someone decides to work smart and not hard. Hey, I work smart, not hard. I will not work hard if I can work smart. If
Yeah.
there's an easier way to do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. I will happily admit that. And you know, the amount of times I've heard resistance to that, the amount of times people want to rebuttal with me for that. And it's like, well, mate, what's the purpose exactly?
Yeah.
Well, it's your due diligence to society. Working hard is the due diligence to others. What about me? What about the cost on me? What about if I'm happy doing it? What about if it's fulfilling for me exactly? Because no one seems to really put a lot of thought into that. If someone is actually fulfilled in doing what they're doing, it's everything is external. Everything's external. It's what you produce. That's your worth and your value.
Mhm.
And then people have the audacity to talk about mental health. And truly, it is the audacity to talk about mental health, because whether you want to admit it or not, because I know, again, it falls under the line of how mental health has been viewed in human evolution. But when you are not living in alignment with the way that you actually want to live, unconsciously, consciously, you might be aware of it, you might not be. A lot of people are not aware of it, but it shows up. Sort of the misery of that shows up in many different forms of your life.
Yeah.
Whether you spend most of your time complaining about life, whether you spend most of your time seeing the negativity of life, and then you're kind of like blinded by that. You go to the job, you do the job, but you actually don't even like the job, but you feel like you have to do the job because people have said to you it pays well, and that's where your worth and value is now attached.
Yeah.
But yet everything is miserable. Everything is hard. It's difficult to get up in the morning. It's difficult to do this. It's difficult to do that. And I am definitely I'm keeping capitalism out of this subject right now.
Yeah.
Because I know the current situations, I'm aware, but I'm keeping it out of the conversation right now. But that consistent living from the programming of this is what you have to do affects people's mental health, which affects your physical health. So if we want to go a full circle moment here, people, you can totally say to a million people, you need to give your all to everything else externally. But if you watch like Ambulance UK or Ambulance Australia, do you know what that is?
Yeah.
I was watching it last night. I was crying. I was crying because and I'm probably going to get teary from it again. There were countless calls of mental health,
Mm.
Countless. Suicidality. Countless. And the thing too is that when you expose yourself to these fields, as many in the field know, the amount of stories, it's also the reason why I am a big advocate on not at the cost of me, because I don't see a lot of this being worth it. I really don't. And with the this is the thing too. Oh, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna do it. A lot of these people are at home by themselves and they can't get care and access from the system. And a
Mm.
lot of them too have been affected because of their job.
Yeah.
One guy was let go from his job because of his mental health. How easy can a job let you go because of your mental health? And no one in the system was helping him. You go to hospital, you get assessed at hospital, they talk to you about your options, and then what from there?
Yeah.
When you have an idea of the system and the way it progresses, when you have an idea of the cost, this programming, this in these all these installments of what you think means you are a worthy human being, none of it matters. None of it matters. It really just doesn't when you witness the struggle that people go through just to keep grabbing onto this programming and holding it because it's the only thing that they have. It's the only thing that they've been taught. It's the only thing that everyone ever talks about. Everyone just attaches your worth to it, and that's just it. That's all you ever hear about. And I know this too. I had to deconstruct it myself, as maybe you did too, Nina. You only had yourself to deconstruct that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's hard work. It is. It's incredibly
Yeah.
hard work to sit down and just be like, okay, I'm going to tackle this now. And it can be scary and can be daunting. And I understand people not wanting to do it. I get it completely, but you're only harming yourself further. And the thing that I would like to add to what Ashley just said, if this is your contribution to society, right? However you work, whatever work you work in, however you appear in whatever it is that you do for said society, um, society is not doing very great right now as a whole. Like it's not, regardless of
Mm,
where you live, it's not doing very great if you can see it, if you look around. It's not doing great. So you're working
no.
for a society to upkeep a society that's physically, mentally, emotionally, in every single shape, way, and form making you sick. That is what you're contributing towards. I really want people to get that because it's like, what are you working towards? And so, well, we can't just go up and, quit our jobs. Of course not. Especially like I have kids, I have this, I have people I need to take care of. I can't just go ahead and quit. Like we get that. But you also have to realize you can't then turn around and then complain about change when that is the very thing that we need as a society.
Mm-hmm.
We need change and we need people to start enacting that change because I have to mention this. There used to be there is a song that I used to listen to all the time, and that's Waiting on the World to Change by John Mayer. It was covered by John Mayer. It's actually from somebody else originally, but I listened to it and it's like while we're waiting on the world to change, we keep on waiting on the world to change. And it's like you can't wait for the world to change. I used to think of listening to that song, I was like, oh, that's the song. Yeah, he gets it. And then I'm like, wait a minute, no. We actually have to do stuff for the
Mm,
world to change. We have to change in order for the world to change. We can't just keep waiting. We can't keep giving it off to somebody else. We can't keep hiring people, quote unquote, politicians, whatever, to be like, you do the work. We all have to do the work. And it starts
mm,
in here, it starts with us. And it is so vital. Please, if you feel miserable in life, if you've been projecting, people like, you can't speak to me this way, if you've been finding yourself feeling sick for whatever reason, please evaluate where that comes from. Please take that moment because it is so necessary. My gosh, it took me nearly dying to get it together, to be like, okay, I have been pushing my body way too hard. I think about people's view of me and what they want of me way way more than what I need for myself, what I need for my body, with my body, what I need to pour into it, what I need to pour into my life. And then I wake up one day and I'm like, well, why am I not living the dream life that I always wanted? Well, how can I if I'm so preoccupied with what everybody else is projecting onto me? And I want to be a good this, I want to be a good that, and how will I look if I do this? I'm not saying go out, quit your job right now, travel to that country. If you can do it, great. If you have that freedom, great. But I'm saying we need to start taking personal responsibility in that as well. And I think that's why we really wanted to take this episode and talk about this, because it is connected to what we spoke about in our prior episode. And so, really take the reins in your life.
Mm.
Those people, real quick, that you mentioned with like waking up in the morning, the 5 a.m. club. Oh, you got to wake up at 5 a.m. and then you get your life together. You got to make your bed every day and life is going to just magically fall into place. That's not how it works. There's no quick fix. There's no hack to that. You can do all this stuff, but it won't matter if you actually don't look at yourself. You can be with that partner, you can have that family, you can have that job, you can have whatever it is that you want. You can project whatever it is that you think life should be and how the other generation should be, or what that person is supposed to do for you or for the world. But at the end of the day, like Ashley said, this is your life. You're the only person you have control over. And if you want to change society into something better, we need to work on it together and not keep waiting, and really take a hard look at ourselves and be like, okay, what is it that I actually want? Why am I so angry? Why am I threatening people around me? Why am I threatening my family members when they're not acting according to what I think they should act? Like, take a look at yourself. It is so vital. It is the number one key. You want a hack in life for your life to go better? Look at yourself. Journal. I was going to curse. Journal. That's all.
The 5 a.m. club thing too. It's not going to work for everyone. Not everyone wants to be a morning person. Not everyone wants to be a night person. That's just realism. Getting up at I don't find the joy in getting up at 4 a.m. if I don't need to. If I'm taking a plane or doing a road trip, I'm up. I'm going. Yeah. I'm moving. Oh yeah, I'm up at 2 a.m.
Right.
But there's obviously differences within that, but it's not going to be for everyone, and that's the other thing that human beings don't get, because it's an element of control and ego too, which is something I'm going to say too. It is an element of control in thinking, well, you have to get up at 6 a.m. because you're just wasting the whole day. And if you're wasting the whole day, then you can't get things done. And if you can't get things done, then what then? You'll have things to do tomorrow. And then it's an element of, I believe, that in this way, so everyone else has to. It's trying to see that and realize, oh, right, that's actually my belief. Let me just close the door and let them sleep. And let me move through my day. Let me just bring it all back, bring the energy back to self, and move through my day and stop trying to control the journeys of others like this. This is like, there's a difference though between, unhealthy control and boundaries, may I just say, because people like to use this as you telling people how to act is an element of control. There's a difference between acting inhumane and just flat out like someone inserting themselves in a certain way and saying, you need to live like this. Like, you need to get up at 5 a.m. You need to drink smoothies in the morning. You need to work for 14 hours a day and be productive in society. You're worthless if you don't. There's a difference, but we'll go there another day. The other thing I wanted to say as well. Oh, yeah.
Sorry. No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
No, you go.
It's like prison. You get up a certain day, you have to eat certain meals, you have to work.
Yep.
It's like, the more I hear you talk and the more I hear me talk, it's like we're already living in what do people say? Fascism? I don't really know all these things, all these terms at the top of my head and what they all mean. So don't, that's not what it means. It's fine. We're already living in a system that doesn't value your life, and you're obtaining that, you are aspiring to that, you're listening to people hype it up on social media. Oh my God, guys, woke up at 5 a.m., changed my entire life. Like, I'm so much more productive. Oh my God. Like, that's not life. That's work. Separate the two. Figure out what it is you want. So yeah, go ahead.
No, you're right. If you enjoy doing that, then go right ahead, do
Right.
your thing. But it's trying to enforce it on other people. It's just guidance. And I've said
Yeah.
this so many times before, and that's for any of you as well. When you see things, like as an example, you're seeing all this self-help online and you're seeing all these advocations and you're sitting there thinking, okay, but then I can't do this, and candida and parasite cleanse. I've gotten into this state before. Detox, detox, detox. When you're seeing all this, you don't have to do it. It is up to you. You are in charge of self. You have full responsibility of self. It is just guidance. It's just guidance. If it resonates, it resonates. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Right? Putting yourself, no. I'm not going to say it in a fault. Being in a position of being so hyper focused on making sure you do all this stuff or absorb all this information because you want to do what's right for you is just going to basically do the opposite of what you're trying to do for self. And there's no need of that, right? If you want to do a parasite cleanse, but yet you're doing other things and you're stressing yourself out, that can be done at any given point, okay? I mean, I know the feeling. It doesn't sound great when you take you do some research on it and stuff. But the whole point is not at the cost of you, okay? It's just guidance. It's just guidance, right? 5 a.m. thing, just guidance. Gym at 4 a.m., just guidance. Even doing gym in the first place is just guidance. If you want to do walking or Pilates or yoga, it's still movement of the body. Oh gosh, I could have a lot to say about that too. Human beings just love to control, really. The audacity to say to someone, you're not doing it right if you're not doing it in the gym.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just, hold on. Is the audacity here somewhere? No, non-existent.
Is the audacity in the room with us, Ashley?
Absolutely not. Are you? It said no, fuck off. Okay. Cool. That's it.
Yeah.
I honestly, control is the one thing I cannot stand. And when I feel someone doing that, when you've been through it and you've been through it in a certain light, you know when people are doing it. And humanity does it. And I think a lot of people do it unconsciously without even realizing because they're so used to that being done to them.
Yes.
And they think they have to do it this way too. Oh my gosh. This is the thing. You think it's something that is in your face. It's very subtle as well. Like someone coming home and being hungry after school and you telling them that they're not allowed to eat. They're not allowed to have a snack. Like it's very subtle things of trying to control their hunger, forcing a child to sit at a table and eat their food when they're clearly are full or there's something. Like there are very subtle ways that human beings do it as well. But I digress. Something I've experienced, especially in this advocacy journey, is a lot of human ego. And one thing I'm going to talk about is the perception that your younger age, means that you have absolutely no idea about the world. So the way that I see it is that some people might think that I walk around like this. I am a baby child. I have no idea what is going on in this human existence. I have just been blinded for like majority of my life. I have absolutely no clue. It's like my brain is switched off. I'm at a 0% mode all the time. That's how I have literally felt in terms of the energy that's been directed when some people say things like, what would you know? I don't know what I would know. I have no idea what I know. I literally just sit here in my room on this chair and I just watch the earth progress day and night, and that is all I do with my existence. If I choose to anyway, it's not for you to say. But it is a human ego to approach anyone, no matter the age, and make an accusation like that when you have no idea.
Right.
And I'm going to advocate for this because realistically, one element of this, babies go through trauma. Babies go through trauma. Trauma starts for a lot of people at birth. Traumatic births actually cause trauma, and you can research that yourself if you want. So you think that the experience growing up in that is not going to play a part? It will. And that is an experience. You might think it's insignificant. No, it's not, because it plays a part. So it is a part of the entire equation. But if you are experiencing certain elements at a young age, if we move up to maybe toddler age, right, depending on the environment and the existence of that environment and the people they're around, they're experiencing. You get older, teenage stage comes, you start to maybe put two and two together, but frontal lobe doesn't develop to 25 people. So the perception a teenager has is within teenager stage. Okay. And they're evolving. You come to them and say, you haven't lived enough to even have a say on anything. But yet they've just been through basically the entire time of their life going through consistent experiences. That's where I'm coming from baby all the way through. It's just being consistent experiences, and you invalidate that because you think their age plays no part of society. It makes no sense to me. If you're talking about life experience even, well, if I haven't been alive for 60 years, yeah, I'm not going to have 60 years of experiences. I have 28 years of experiences. But that doesn't mean that I'm insignificant that I play no part in the conversation, that I'm insignificant to that conversation, that I have no place in the advocacy of human experience. That is where I'm going to this. That's where I'm trying to push the car towards, is the amount of people that have literally come towards me and said, you know, when you get a few more life experiences, then come back. And I feel the rage. Yeah. I feel the rage build up within me because I feel so invalidated. Yeah. You know? And I think to myself, what would you know? It's like, it's fascinating that you can come to me and do that, but I would never fathom doing that to anyone else. Like, it's just the audacity.
Right, yeah.
Again, trying to find the audacity somewhere. It is nowhere in this room. We've already established that. But I'm not specifically going at a certain age range, but at the end of the day, it is about speaking on the advocacy that some people that are older, I'm 28, okay? So 30s, 40s, 50s, older, have a perception of like that invalidates age ranges that they think have no input, that they're bananas in pajamas, that deserve to have no input because of your own perception of what life experience means. You really don't have any idea on that. You will have no clue unless you've lived their life, which is impossible. You cannot live their life. You have no idea. You don't know what it feels like when they get cut. Like, if they cut their finger, you don't know what that feels like from their point of view. You only know what it feels like from your point of view.
Yeah.
It really angered me. It really tested me when my voice would be silenced because of my age.
Yeah.
And gosh, one particular time, I remember being in a certain environment where community was being talked about, and I had an idea, and that idea was shut down instantly because what would I know? Or the other point of it too that I realized along the way is that I'm speaking from a young mind. So my views are young. And no one is going to really like them or find them to be comfortable because my views are young and they are not conforming. And it's like, and I think to myself, you know what? How do we actually incorporate change if we're not willing to incorporate everyone in that change? Everyone has something to say no matter the age range.
Yeah.
Even a teenager who hasn't had their frontal lobe come into 25 has something to say. Right? Yeah. They have a story, they have an experience, they have something to share and something to say. When I'm 80 years old, you will never catch me invalidating any age.
Yeah.
Just because I've lived so long. No, I don't see the point in that. It's such an ego. And even just people that have studied high degrees as well, I have experienced the arrogance from that too. And I'm going to bring that into the picture too. Thinking that your high degree or your high diploma or your PhD gives you leeway gives you this open door to look down on other people that have not that do not have that. You do not have that. Guess what? I am God. I am the gospel. I am the Bible. Hello to you. That's what it feels like. The ego literally matches to that energy, God energy. I am this, so you treat me as that.
Yeah.
My geez, human ego is just such an output. It really just
Yeah.
it thrives at the cost of other people. That's where the accountability and responsibility come in. Taking little things like age, what do you call it? Degrees, like studying, married life. Oh, I've got children. And then putting yourself on a pedestal in a hierarchy and thinking, yep, that makes me invincible to look at everyone else below and do what I please, project as I please. Look at a waitress because I am in a high paying job as a CEO and think you're a downgrade or you're this or you're that. Looking at someone that's a cleaner. How about we go there, people? With the whole stereotype that if someone's a cleaner, that makes it such a low level
Right.
job. A low level job? There's such a thing? Because it's not high paying, right? Because it's not high paying, it's a low level job. It's a downgrade of a job. I wonder if the sea creatures in the ocean, what they think of this shit. I wonder what the animals think of this shit.
They probably look at us and they're like, I'm just so glad I'm not part of that crew. That is also probably a very big reason why we're in the mess that we are in as a society, is because you have people in those positions, not just with status, but also with age, who think they know everything and they are the sole solution to everything. When in fact, it is not them that will inherit the earth, it is the younger generation. And so younger people should actually be listened to more, because we are the ones that are actively still, we have so much left to do, so much work we have to put in to not only in our society, but also personal, obviously, because the way, if we're going on societal expectation, job market, marriage market, housing market, those are all prices of things. Those are all things that are affecting everybody, including younger people. So,
Yeah.
it's like, why are we not including those? In fact, why are those voices not running the system and having people who are older, who are more experienced, mentor younger people, younger voices, as opposed to, nope, I am in control. I know everything. I don't need your help. Goodbye. It's ridiculous.
It's the ego. It
Yeah,
hits
it's
the
the
ego.
ego.
Being
Yeah.
told by a younger person, like having a younger person in front of you and them depicting life in a certain way, people feel threatened by that. That's
Yeah.
a survival.
Yeah.
Like, how dare someone younger than me? Like,
Right.
how offended would someone be if someone else was really just portraying something that they're doing in such a way? And they're like, oh my God, they're
Right.
better than me. I need to put this down. I need to do something about this. Someone's voice will easily be silenced when it's a threat to someone else.
Yeah.
Like, someone will easily take that and be able to project it. And this is the sort of thing that happens is if someone sees you as a threat and you're a certain age and they think to themselves, well, I'm older than you, so frankly, you don't get a say in this factor. You shouldn't get a say because what would you know? What would you be able to bring to the table? What knowledge and awareness do you think you're going to have? Really? Shut the door. Only we can have this conversation. Well, great. I hope you're willing to fix the entire world then. I hope you're willing to fix poverty and homelessness. I hope you're willing to do all of that then if you're trying to shut out, a large part of the population. So
Right.
you can fill your ego into having the validation, to getting the validation that you made the change, or
Yeah.
or that you don't want the change to happen because you're uncomfortable with it and you want things to stay as they are. So you silence the voices that are going to make you uncomfortable with that change.
Yeah.
It's just easier. It's easier to stop the change than it is to self-assess,
Yeah.
even though the change needs to happen. That's where, again, the accountability and responsibility comes in. If it needs to happen and you're being triggered by it, go within, go internal and assess that. because that's the thing that people aren't doing. And I understand it to an extent, but we all have a part. We have a part to play. We have a part to play in this society, and it's a whole different episode to talk about. But when you don't go inwards and instead you just go around to every Tom, Dick, and Harry and have your moment with them instead of actually turning to you and like Nina said, journaling it, just doing something that is just with yourself. You're just with yourself and you're taking yourself and you're assessing yourself. You're putting it on paper or you're talking about it, whatever you need to do. When you don't do that and you blame the external world, then you're just going to keep basically blocking anything from moving, and then everything's going to stay in such a stagnant space. And we might as well just go back to the Stone Age at that point, because no one wants any kind of change from there, you know? There's just no expanding the human experience from that. Like it, I was about to say cock blocking. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
No, I completely understand. It's ridiculous, but I will leave you guys with the mantra that I have had since I was a kid.
You are a spiritual being.
And it is the best mantra because it comes from a rock song and it comes from the one and only Bon Jovi, which makes it even better. You should just have like a Bon Jovi picture in my room somewhere since I'm referencing him all the time. It's my life and it's now or never. We ain't gonna live forever. Or I ain't gonna live forever. I just want to live while I'm alive because it's my life. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye.
Auf Wiedersehen. Bye.